My mother always told this story in a whisper, and every time she stopped at the same part. She was 9 when it happened. That summer, they stayed at her great-grandmother's old wooden house at the edge of a village. The house was dim, heavy with the smell of dried herbs and old fabric. In the entryway stood a cedar chest. No one opened it without permission. That year, my mother was given a large porcelain doll. No clothes, just bare porcelain skin and heavy glass eyes that seemed aware. She begged her great-grandmother to sew it a dress. "Not now," the old woman said, "and don't touch the chest." But children are drawn to forbidden things. One afternoon, when the adults were gone, my mother and her friend opened it. Inside were neatly folded white blouses, dark shawls, and at the very bottom, a long, heavy dress, black lace along the hem. They decided no one would notice if they trimmed just a little from the bottom. The scissors struggled. The fabric felt wrong, too thick, almost resisting. They used the lace to sew the doll a crooked little dress. It fit perfectly, too perfectly. That night, my mother placed the doll beside her bed. And sometime after midnight, she woke up to a sound, soft, slow, the rustling of fabric. At first, she thought it was mice, then the wind, but the sound was right beside her bed. Shh, like lace dragging across wood. She kept her eyes shut, and then she felt it. Something touched her hand, cold, hard. She forced her eyes open. The doll was standing, not lying down, standing beside the bed. And the dress was longer. The lace brushed the floor. My mother screamed. Her great-grandmother rushed in. The doll was lying where it had been placed, but the dress had grown. The lace now reached the edge of the bed. Her great-grandmother said nothing. She only turned pale. The next morning, the cedar chest was empty. Later, my mother overheard the truth. That dress had not been made just in case. It had been sewn for her great-grandmother's sister. She died in that house, the night she tried on her burial dress. After that, no one touched the chest again. The doll was gone. Given away, her great-grandmother said. But a week later, a strip of black lace was found on the windowsill. The exact piece they had never used. My mother swears they cut every last thread. And here's the part she never says out loud. When I was little, I found a porcelain doll in our closet. No clothes, but stitched tightly around its wrist was a thin strip of black lace, and it fit perfectly. Autumn always felt different to me. Even as a child, I could sense it. The air felt heavier, sounds were softer, houses seemed darker from the inside. I was 9 years old, and I had a friend named Megan. She lived downhill from us, in an older part of town where the trees grew thick and close together. Our house stood on open land. Hers was tucked into shadow. Even on sunny days, her yard looked dim. On cloudy ones, it looked almost abandoned. I didn't visit her often, even though she always asked me to. "Come over tomorrow," she'd say at school. "We can hang out in my room. Mom's baking pie." I'd say yes, but every time I reached her porch, something inside me tightened, like I shouldn't be there. The house was old, wooden. The floorboards creaked under every step. It smelled damp, like old carpet, wood, and something faintly sour beneath it. And every time I walked inside, I felt the same thing. Like someone had noticed me, like I wasn't supposed to be there. That afternoon, the sky hung low and gray. We were sitting on her bedroom floor, lazily moving plastic figures around. The game wasn't really happening. It was too quiet. And then, a heavy step, right above us. I froze. Another one. Then a dragging sound. Slow, deliberate. Like someone shuffling their feet across wooden boards. I slowly looked up. The attic was directly above her room. "Did you hear that?" I whispered. Megan didn't even look up. "Oh, that's Aunt Evelyn," she said casually, and kept playing. I stared at her. "What aunt?" "Our aunt. She's in the attic." Another slow step echoed overhead. "I've never seen any aunt here." Megan finally looked at me. "She died a long time ago." My stomach dropped. "How?" "She hanged herself. She was 17. She said it calmly, like it wasn't a big deal. Evelyn had stolen something. The police came to the house. She hid in the attic, and that's where she ended it, still wearing the stolen leather boots. I couldn't stop staring at the ceiling. "She comes back sometimes," Megan added. "She's looking for what she hid." Another step. Closer. "What is she looking for?" I whispered. "They never found everything." The dragging sound moved toward the attic hatch. I told myself it was the house settling, wind, animals, but the rhythm was wrong. It wasn't random. It was paced, human. "Do you want to see the attic?" Megan asked suddenly. I should have said no, but I nodded. The attic stairs were narrow and steep. My hands trembled as I climbed. At the top was a wooden door, and a padlock hung on it, on the outside. Relief washed over me. "See? It's locked," I whispered. And then, a step, from behind the door, clear, followed by slow dragging, right on the other side. Megan stopped breathing. So did I. The boards creaked under unseen weight, and then a soft knock from inside. We ran, down the stairs, through the house, out the front door. I didn't look back, because I was certain, if I did, I'd see her in the attic window. Aunt overcoming, still wearing someone else's boots. I never went back. Our friendship faded, years passed, but I still remember those footsteps. Not chaotic, not random, heavy, slow, intentional. And sometimes, when I drive past that old house, I catch myself looking up, and I wonder if Aunt Evelyn is still walking, still searching, still waiting for someone to climb those stairs again. I've never told this story publicly, because if porcelain dolls really know how to wait, she might still be listening. My sister didn't die from illness. She ran out of breath. And the doll we brought home from a grieving mother's apartment started breathing instead. This happened in the early 1990s when everything in our country was collapsing. Governments, factories, families. We lived in a crumbling communal building on the edge of an industrial city. The walls smelled of coal and dampness. My mother sewed at night to survive. My grandfather barely left his bed. Above us lived a family who still had light, warm lamps, clean curtains, fresh flowers in winter. And then their daughter died. Pneumonia, they said. Quick, sudden. A week later, my mother sent my little sister Lita and me upstairs to ask if they would sell any of the child's winter clothes. We needed a coat. The woman who opened the door wore a black scarf. Her face wasn't red from crying. It looked faded. She led us into the girls' room. Nothing had been touched. The bed was made, a hairbrush on the nightstand, shoes by the door. And on the sofa, a porcelain doll. There was nothing obviously wrong with it. Blonde curls, pale face, blue glass eyes. But those eyes looked wet, alive. "Take it," the woman said suddenly. "It shouldn't stay here." My sister picked it up without asking. The hallway felt colder when we left. At first, the doll seemed like a blessing. Lita stopped being afraid of the dark. She slept peacefully. She stopped crying at night. Then the coughing began. Dry, hollow, like she wasn't sick, but suffocating. My mother even sewed a blue dress for the doll. That night, Lita slept perfectly. And the doll looked different. Its cheeks had color now. A small crack in the porcelain had disappeared. Its hair looked freshly brushed. Sometimes when my sister slept, the doll would be positioned differently. Its head turned toward the door, or toward me. One night I woke up because I felt watched. Two faint reflections glowed in the darkness. Streetlight in glass eyes, I told myself. But they were level with my face. The doll was too heavy to stand. It couldn't have been standing. That summer, I was sent away to relatives. When I came back, Lita looked hollow. Doctors said it was a rare wasting condition. Her body was burning itself out. The doll had never looked better. The porcelain shone. Its lips curved slightly upward, as if it knew something we didn't. Sometimes when Lita coughed in her sleep, I swear the doll's chest moved in rhythm. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. The night my sister died, the room was silent, completely silent. And then I heard it, a short, satisfied breath. But it didn't come from her. After the funeral, my grandmother found me sitting in the storage room. The doll was on my lap. I was brushing its hair. I don't remember why. Maybe I thought if I stayed close to it, it wouldn't need anyone else. Grandmother didn't say a word. She took the doll, opened the stove, and threw it into the fire. What came from inside the furnace wasn't porcelain cracking. It wasn't steam. It was a thin, offended laugh. When we pulled the remains out, the doll's mouth was stretched wider than before, almost smiling. Years passed. I moved away, built a life, tried to forget. Until one evening in a small private museum in Europe, I saw her again. Not the same doll, but the same face, the same eyes. The guide told us a story. In the early 1900s, a craftsman created 3 unique porcelain dolls. Rumor said he mixed ash from old graves into the glaze, believing it would give them presents. When an epidemic struck his town, people accused him of witchcraft. Before his execution, he said only one sentence: "They will not die. They will search for breath." 2 dolls remain in private collections. The third disappeared. As I stared at the display case, a thin crack appeared on the doll's cheek, exactly where ours once had one. That night, in my hotel room, I woke up coughing, dry, familiar. On the bedside table lay a small porcelain button. I live alone. I don't have children. Not yet. But sometimes, when the lights are off, I feel something in the darkness, practicing, learning, waiting to breathe.